don't wait till something traumatic happens in your life for you to want to change it, for you to want to do something. Just whatever you feel in the moment, just do it. Nothing is promised. This isn't, you're not promised to have good health. You're not promised to be alive. Just do it in the moment. Don't wait last minute. I remember doing chemo and everything. I was like, okay, if I make it through this, something I would tell myself was like, okay, like God isn't ending your story. He's giving you one to tell. If I mess up at anything, I'm blaming it on chemo brain. That is my answer to everything.
Disclaimer.
I'm blaming it on chemo brain. That's it.
What made you decide to check your breasts, and like, how did you find out? Like, how did you begin the process?
So I turned 19 November 2018. And then I think about maybe December is when I started to notice that I had my nipple was scarring and stuff, and I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's because I wore pasty, and I was like, oh, it's allergic reaction or something. And then I went home for winter break, and then that's when I started noticing discharge and leaking. So in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe it's infected. Maybe if I just clean it with rubbing alcohol or put a Band-Aid on it, I'll be fine. And then February turns around, and I'm looking in I take a shower. I get out, I look in the mirror. I just I look at myself. I'm just like, something's off. And internally, I'm just like, I feel like I'm talking to myself. I'm just like, I feel like we're avoiding something. What are we avoiding?
Yeah.
So I look in the mirror and I notice okay, my right breast is bigger than my left. I'm just like, that's because I pay attention to my body because I feel like it's important to know your body. So I'm just like, it doesn't usually do that. I remember when you told us that we should check our breasts. So that idea, that moment came into my head, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm just doing what Kayla said. And even though 2 or 3 years had passed by, I'm just like, yeah, that's still stuck with me. So I did it, and I was like, okay, just do a little check. And that's when I found behind my nipple, I found a really, really small lump, pretty much the size of a Skittle. Mm-hmm. And I started Googling my symptoms. And then automatic thing that popped up was patches of the breast. So I clicked on it and I read it, and they're like, oh, it's a sign of cancer. There's no need for me to prepare myself. I was like, yeah, this is something I already, I feel I know it's weird to say, I feel like I have cancer. But I went to my doctor and she found a bigger lump, which was pretty much it was this big. Breast cancer turned out scary. And the guy tells me, oh, he's like, oh, how old are you? And I tell him, yeah, I'm 19. I tell him what my doctor told me. And he's like, oh, you're too young. It's probably nothing. Because I'm supposed to see Dr. A.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I can get you an appointment with Dr. B. It's because Dr. A only sees cancer patients and you're 19, so you probably don't have cancer. I'm not going to just call to see a cancer doctor for fun, to waste your time. I don't even want to call this. I don't even want to do this. At this point, I was like, Google told me it might be Paget's disease. I'm like, Google told me.
Everybody gets a doctor. Google.
Yes, Google, doctors at Google told me it might be Paget's, it might be a sign of cancer. Can you help me? So I tell her that. She was like, oh, it's probably nothing. You're young. And in my head, I'm like, that doesn't matter, because you see little kids with leukemia and all types of diseases. So it makes you think at 19, I won't be able to develop a disease. Mm-hmm. And we walk into the office and all that. My mom sits on the bench where the patient is. After sitting in her chair, and I'm just sitting in this corner. I'm just like, okay, can we get this over with? I have schoolwork to do.
Yeah.
So that's when I see my doctor. She pulls out these papers, and I'm just like, at that moment, I just freeze. She didn't say a word. No one said anything. Everybody just my mom and my doctor looked at me. I'm just like, oh shit, oh. And she's like, I got your. She's about to tear up, and she tells me oh, I got your results back. And all I can do is just pull off my jacket. I felt it felt like I had heat just rise over me. And all I can say, the first word I said was fuck. I was like, fuck. Mm-hmm. And they're over here, they're like, relax, calm down, it's okay. I was like, no, it's not. Yeah. At that moment, it was crazy. It felt like I was looking back at my life that was happening and then looking forward to that. Because no one, I know we all die, but this was not the way I thought I'd pass. And he's like, I'm not trying to die like this. Because all you see, like, for me, all I can think is death when you say cancer. Because I've seen my grandfather die from cancer. I've seen so many people I love die from cancer. So when you see it firsthand, it's just like, okay, so are you telling me this is like my fate? I'm gonna die from this. Like I finally get to sit down and meet with him and talk to him. He starts telling me about my plan and stuff. And I didn't like how he was speaking to me. He was talking to me as if I was like this is like just another case. You're not a person, you're a case. And I remember asking him, I was like, hey, so have you ever like treated anyone young? Because a lot of times what doctors will do, they'll try to get someone that they can put on their record and be like, look, I cured them, I did this. And that's not something I wanted. I didn't want to be an experiment. That's, sir, please. So for 15 minutes, I listened to him. And after that, I toned him out. Like my mom was in the appointment with me. Like she can say everything that happened, but for me, for 15 minutes, I listened. But that went through one ear and out the other. Like while he was sitting there and talking to me, all he was like womp 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 womp. For about 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't have an oncologist. I didn't find anyone until my insurance company sent me a letter in the mail. They were like, oh, you can only go to the first breast center or the second breast center. So I went to the second breast center because I was like, okay, I have no choice and just get this over with. Because all I can think in the back, like I have the creeping thought in the back of my head, like, okay, this cancer is getting bigger. Like I would look in the mirror every day. I'll just measure. I'm like, okay, it's getting bigger. Yesterday it was this big. Now it's this big. Because it's just like that's all you can think. Like, okay, this cancer is in my body. It's getting bigger. No one's here to help me. No one's looking at it. So I finally go to the right place. I go to second breast center. And I was like really nervous. Yeah. I was so nervous. So I went upstairs, talked to the secretary, and she was asking me questions so that she could fill out the paperwork to sign my appointment. I met my breast surgeon and oncologist, and from there, like my breast surgeon told me that I did have Paget's disease. So I was like, I knew it. I brought it up to her. I was like, Google told me. And she was like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, wow. So me Googling it, there was nothing wrong with that? She was like, yeah, no. I was like, oh, okay. The doctors at Google aren't so bad. She told me like I would have to do chemotherapy first, and then I'd either do a lumpectomy, bilateral mastectomy, or regular mastectomy. And I told her, like she was at first, she was like, oh yeah, you can just do the mastectomy. We'll just take one. I was like, nah, sis, just take both. Just bilateral, take both. Because I'm just like, I don't want to have one just sitting and the other one's just, take both. Yeah. And on top of that, I think I have something called the CHEK2 mutation, which means that I'm more susceptible to breast cancer and colorectal cancer. So bilateral mastectomy is like the best thing for lowering my chances of reoccurrence. So I was like, just get it, just take it, just do what you do.
So what happened next? So like after that, like what treatments and medications you had to take, and how is that for you? How's that going for you, and how's that too? So I think you're still taking it, right?
So I did something called adriamycin, which is like a very, very strong drug, chemotherapy drug. I did that for 2 months. And I would do it every 2 weeks for 2 months. And during that's the drug that literally took my hair out. Like I remember doing it for the first month. I did it. And I was doing something called like a cooling cap. So that's it's like you spray your hair with water, you put the cap on, freezes all of that. And it's supposed to stop the chemo from going to your head. Whatever. I'm not a doctor, don't quote me on that. But it's supposed to do something like that. Yeah. I did that. My hair fell out. So yeah. Also with adriamycin, I was very nauseous, super nauseous. I was still going to school then, so it'd be like Thursday. I missed my Thursday class, and then I had to go back to school on Monday. And the first cycle, I was done for. Like I remember the first night just like throwing up, being sick. So they tried to give me like I think so, like it's called Zofran. They tried to give me nausea medication, that didn't work. So they ended up having to give me it's called Advan, which they also use, I believe, to treat depression and a bunch of other things. So I had to take that, and honestly, that is what made everything a blur. They would give me the lowest dose, and I would still be out of it. Like sometimes I don't remember the car rides home. I would be knocked out. I don't remember the days. My days are mixed up. All I know is that, like, I would get up. All I know is like I'll be sick on a Thursday. Next thing I know, it's Sunday, and I'm going back to school. And like even at that time, like I would feel groggy and feel like everything's like hazy, and I'm just walking around trying to go into my dorm. So it was crazy. And then after I did adriamycin, so I finished adriamycin, I believe, like in July. I did something called Taxol. Taxol wasn't bad. I wasn't nauseous, but it gives you something called peripheral neuropathy. So like my hands and feet tingle, and I would have to put my hands and feet in like ice while they're doing the infusion. The infusion times are really long, so I'd spend like most of my day, like for like maybe 3 or 4 hours. I'd be doing chemotherapy, and then I had to come back home, so that's for like 2 hours to get back. Also, I had to do something called Herceptin Perjeta, which is like immunotherapy drug. So I started that in June or July 2019, and I ended that this year, June or July, because it had to be for like a year. And I do that like every 3 weeks or every 30 days, something like that. And on top of that, I have to take something called like a Lupron shot, which I started taking again. So Lupron is supposed to like suppress your ovaries. I'm not gonna hold you. Sometimes I don't even look up the stuff that much, because I'm just like, I'm not gonna put myself through that mentally. I'm just not even gonna question it. And then I'm doing something called tamoxifen, which I have to take for like 5 years.
When did you do your homework throughout all of this? You're still at full-time.
Girl, I tried to finish my homework before chemotherapy. That was really it. And I had to do something called like Fitable. So I had to like write to my professors and tell them, hey, I'm going through this. Can you give me an extension? Can you excuse my latencies? Can you excuse my absences?
Yeah. I know you said that you got a double mastectomy. So how did that, like, going into surgery feel?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was comfortable going in because I had already met with my breast surgeon. I met with my plastic surgeon, and they made me comfortable. So I was like, okay, you know what? I can do this. Like, I put all my faith in them, like they can do what they need to do. And I wasn't really scared. Like no, I'm lying. I was like, I'm lying to myself. Let me not play myself. Wait, that's a lie. Yeah, but I think like the few days before, I was anxious. I was like kind of scared. I was just like, damn. Because also, I watched too much TV. I was like, what happens if I like die on the table? Like, what if my heart just stops beating? And then I also had like reconstruction in July of 2020. So that experience wasn't, I think, it wasn't bad. I think all I could think about was like, damn, Corona. Like, what if one of it's really bad to say this. But I was like, what if one of the doctors, like, they're cutting me open and they cough? Like, what if they Yeah, so like the most odd thing just would run through my mind. I'm like, what if they cough and they don't have their mask on? Like, oh my gosh. So like,
normally
once again, I was comfortable. Exactly. It's like, what if they cough? What if their hands? And it was pretty funny because while I was doing while they were prepping me, like laying me out on the table and putting all these stickers and everything on me, they asked me, one of the guys, he was like, oh, so what do you want to listen to? Like what type of music do you want to listen to while we prep you? I'm just like, I don't know, Travis Scott. So he plays Highest in the Room. He's like, well, you're about to be the highest in the room. And all I remember is knocking out.
Posted your story on Instagram, which is basically how we kind of like connected again. So I want to know, like, what inspired you to do that, and like what was your main goal with putting that out there?
I remember trying to, like, I sat down and tried to make the video. I wasn't there yet. Like, all I can do is look at the camera and laugh. Then I tried again in like January. January of this year. I tried January of this year. All I could do was laugh. So then, like, just a few weeks ago, I sat down and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this video. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna stop saying I'm doing things and not doing it. The whole point of it, I was just like, I wanted to show people that it wasn't really about me. I just wanted to show people that anything can happen. Anything can happen to you at any moment. You should pay attention to your body, because that's the number one thing, paying attention to your body. Because often we're so young and we're like, oh yeah, anything, we can do any and everything. Because people put that idea in your head, like, oh yeah, you're young, your body can do this, that, and the third. But no, not all the time. So I just wanted to like bring awareness to the fact that you should pay attention to your body. You should know that you are still, like, you can still have a chronic illness. Anything can happen. Like, just because you're young doesn't mean cancer is gonna, like, oh no, she's 20, she's about to have fun. No, let's not do that. Let me go to her like grandparents. Not, no, baby, you can get it. Oh yeah.
So, do you have any like closing remarks that you want to like say out?
So I have to say heavy emphasis on knowing your body and checking yourself, and also advocating for yourself no matter what. If you have the chance and the opportunity to advocate for yourself, don't let someone tell you no. You can always get a second opinion, because I feel like we get so caught up in our routine. Because that's what happened to me. I was like, school, work, school, work, school, work. Like just doing that to the point where I didn't even pay attention to my body. All I would do is pay attention to like, oh, take a shower, go to sleep, wake up, go to school, Monday through Thursday. Oh, Friday go to work, Saturday work. So I feel like we get so lost in routine that we don't pay attention to ourselves or our bodies. We don't pay attention to the physical. We don't pay attention to our mental. We don't pay attention to our spiritual. We just like do the same routine over and over. I can say everything happens for a reason, because I know if I had never met you, if I never heard that little story, even though to you might seem like you just said like a little story, that was it. If I had never heard that, I don't know where I would be, because it's just like we all meet each other. We all see each other for a reason. No one just happens to come into your life for fun. Mm-hmm. Like we're all connected in some way. So if I had never met you, never heard that story, I don't think I would have checked myself.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I thank you for that. You might think it's like, oh, I just said a little something, like that was it. No, like 2 years later, I still remember that in the back of my head, and I was like, oh, let me check myself.